You held me in your arms and wiped away my tears. Not even in a million years can I ever repay you for what you've done for me. You were there when I felt that there was no place for me. You were there to show me how to truly believe in the miracle of creation, in the good and the bad. Oh, how I love you, Mom and Dad.
Bismillah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Welcome back to Outstanding Parents, where I'm Nazir Irfaan, your host here today and one of the co-founders of OutstandingMuslimParents.com. Well, alhamdulillah, today's episode is very, very special. So again, I always suggest to grab something to write on, something to write with, because we're going to be discussing creating your child's curriculum. Okay, because here we encourage you to be outstanding parents as opposed to being average, because of course, average is nothing but the top of the bottom and the bottom of the top. So here's the deal. I want you to take some great notes, because this right here has literally propelled my children a lot further than what they were getting just at their Muslim school. And it also allows me to utilize every single role that I have as a celebrity, as a confidant, and as a coach. So I think you'll like how this is mixed in, inshallah. And let's go ahead and start now. There are many different areas of your life, but I want you to follow the way these goals or this desired outcome is really set up. Okay. Now, first, we're going to talk about 3 areas. Okay. And we'll talk more about 2, and then we'll touch on the 3rd one, but you will be able to get the flow, inshallah, once we get there. Now, first, here's the thing. Why are we talking about curriculums? Doesn't schools have a good enough curriculum? Well, I'm a strong believer in parenting encompasses so many different things, it's not limited. So you can teach your child mathematics or reading or language and social studies. Matter of fact, we are the first teachers of our children, and we should be the best teachers of our children, or at least be striving to be the best, right? That just makes sense. So when we're talking about designing a curriculum, I'm talking about designing something for our children's lives as they grow older. So they have a number of different references, a number of different things set to the side that is equipping them so they can put on armor and really deal with the world as they move out and learn more and become more independent. So that's the reason why. Now, of course, the 3 areas that we're going to discuss here are common to really all of us. I don't know where you are in the world right now, but I know the Islamic curriculum is very important. Right? Of course. You're watching Huda TV specifically for that purpose. Number 2, their academic curriculum is important as well. And we'll talk about one specific area of this academic area. And we'll also discuss the emotional curriculum, which is pretty important. So let's start talking about the Islamic curriculum. Now, I don't know where your children are. I don't know how old they are, but I know mine. I have teenagers all the way down to very young and expecting. Okay, so alhamdulillah, I have 7 children right now, and, don't really have plans to stop anytime soon. Muslims like big families. Well, alhamdulillah, and the Prophet ﷺ encouraged us to be fruitful, as he wants the biggest ummah on the last day. So let's continue. First is the Islamic curriculum. What I want you to write out right next to Islamic curriculum is the desired outcome you want. What is the objective that you want to achieve? What do you want for your child? Now, it doesn't matter if we're talking about 1 child, 7, 8, 9, 10, or whatever. Doesn't matter how many children. Each of them deserves an individualized curriculum, because they're usually at different levels of understanding. I'm not going to talk to my 16-year-old and teach her something that I'll be teaching my 5-year-old or 1-year-old. Okay, totally different curriculums. And I'm sure you understand that it's a bigger gap. And as they grow older, they get higher levels of understanding that comes from Allah Ta'ala. So, with that being said, what is the objective and desired outcome you want for each of your children? If you just have 1 child, just say your child. I'm going to talk plural because, we're known to have more than just 1 child usually. So what's the desired outcome? And I'm a strong believer in you can start at any age. It doesn't matter if they're 2 years old and they're listening to Quran. Now, of course, you might not give them written quizzes and different stuff like that, but you're exposing them as part of their Islamic curriculum. You're helping them perform wudu or get dressed for salat and stuff like that. Okay, but we're talking about the ages I'm looking at right now. It's really about 4 or 5 and up, when they can write and go back and forth and understand good conversation. Okay, all the way up to teenagers. So first, again, state your desired outcome. What is the objective you want to achieve? Now, with this, the Islamic curriculum in particular, I would suggest minimum 5 hours a week and 4 days a week. It's the consistency that matters more than anything else. All right, it's the consistency. Now, you may figure 3 hours, you may figure 10. I don't know what your schedule is in your home, but I suggest a minimum 5, because you want it to be consistent so they don't just easily forget. You know, we're all children of Adam, and we're forgetful. Okay, so 5 hours a week, minimum 4 days, just to keep the consistency every other day. Okay, now, of course, we want to start with the most important areas first. You start with Quran. Now, you can memorize the Quran, short surah. You can memorize juz. It depends on where your children are. Your children might know a number of juz or half the Quran, and maybe even be half of the Quran. Allahu Akbar. But we want to start with the Quran. So memorizing, you can study under a hafiz or ustad, study under someone who's memorized the Quran, or study under a teacher that teaches you how to pronounce correctly. You repeat after them. You can teach yourself if you already know how to read, and then get it corrected by someone who knows more. All right, and we're talking about your children, of course, yourself and your children. Now, you could also listen online, or your child can be repeating after a qari online, okay? Or use different free tools online. Doesn't matter if we're talking about on YouTube or different websites, but the Quran, and finding resources that fit there. The second is Arabic, learning the language, learning Arabic. Again, studying with the teacher to pronounce them correctly, studying different free tools and things that are online, different interactive courses or classes, doing it Skype, whatever, but to learn the language to understand our deen, to learn Fusa Arabic. And again, you can mix these areas up if you're already there. If your tajweed is already proper, if you're already on studying things like Jurumiyya or something, you can go to another area or choose. But I'm just putting them in this particular order and giving an example, kind of a template, if you will, of what I do with my children. Now, Sunnah. Whether that be studying the Sirah of the Prophet ﷺ, whether it's if you don't speak Arabic yet, a good translation in English is Ar-Rahiq Makhtum, the sealed nectar. So the Sirah of the Prophet ﷺ, or audios. Audios, subhanAllah, I love audios because I drive a lot, and when I'm traveling, I can listen, or you can put it inside your smartphone or on your device, and you can listen to the audio pretty much anywhere you are. All right, so you can listen to the life of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam that was done in the Meccan period and the Medina period. There are audios out there for this. There are audios of the companions' lives, for example, life of Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu anhu, and life of Umar bin al-Khattab, for example. So to listen to these audios is incredible. There's even a thing about the Aqidah of Imam Bukhari. So you can find them online. You can find it wherever you would like to, or you could also read the books as well, which are important especially if you have the ability to read on a device or go to the masjid or do it at home. You have that extra time. But whatever method you can utilize, or your child can utilize, use it. If they're at home, put them on the computer, have it playing, have them listen to it and do a report. Okay. Now, of course, there are other topics of Islam as well. Now, some topics right off the bat that get more interest usually are of the ghaib. So when we talk about the jinn, for example, children want to learn about the jinn. Well, we can teach them about the jinn from the Quran and Sunnah. Matter of fact, there's even a book called The Jinn, according to the Quran and Sunnah. We could talk about the angels. We could talk about marriage for those who are, that preteen, teenager age, right? They're going through some changes and stuff with their body and their hormones and stuff like that. We can be discussing it, listening to fiqh regarding it. We can study it. SubhanAllah, these are some topics that, of course, are pretty interesting, and they capture their attention. So we want them to be heavily involved with what they're studying. And we're going to be talking about quizzing them shortly. Talk about prophets from Adam alayhi salatu wasalam all the way to Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. All right, their lifestyles. There's even an audio series called Lives of the Prophets. Very good series. In English, alhamdulillah, is very good. Of course, we need to talk about history as well. History is extremely important. Now, it's about the year is 1433 right now after Hijrah. So we're talking about only 1,433 years of history, not necessarily that long a time. But to know the difference 100 years ago, 200, 500 years ago, when we talk about the glory days of Islam, when we look at the different divisions that are going on now throughout the Muslim world, the different borders, we need to know how these things evolved, where it came from. I mean, if you look at Misr right now, we're looking at Egypt and the big change that's going on in politics and their election and what happened. There's huge changes going on. Do we understand based upon what we're looking around, just kind of looking around now, thinking about politics? Or can we look 1,000 years ago and see what was happening in Egypt? When we look at Al-Andalus, you know, what happened there? What were the problems? So talk about these issues and make it very real to your children. But again, that's one of the challenges when it comes to modern times. We have to make them be able to understand. We have to at least show them or explain things to them where they can relate to it, where it still shows its relevance. And the relevance doesn't come from the situation. The relevance comes from how we articulate the information to them, how we can describe the situation to help them visualize it and picture the similarities of today and also the differences of today. But that struggle with Kufr versus Iman is still going to be the same. We just have to be able to articulate it in a manner that they can understand it and are impressed by it. And alhamdulillah, we do that when we talk about history. Then, of course, we have to talk about politics, because Islam does not separate. That is not separate. It's not a church and state thing. Okay, this deen came to be supreme. Allah Ta'ala came and gave us the best. He gave us Deen al-Haq. So there's no separation in this. And don't shy away from it, because if you shy away from it, then you raise ignorant children. All right? We have to give them what we know. If we don't know, then we must learn and pass it on. You know, I heard a long time ago that our children are gifts for the future. Well, if our children are gifts for the future, we want to make sure these gifts leave good stuff. We want to make sure we implanted some good things for them. You know, we want to go ahead and we want to get that burden off of us with this trust that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us, this amana in our children. So, alhamdulillah. Now, to continue, when it comes to, and that's just an example of the Islamic curriculum and objective. Now, what I like to do personally is my older daughters, what they do is they email me. They email me, they fill out a Google Doc and they put in the lessons and stuff that they learned. They took some notes and stuff like that, and I will discuss that with them. So I suggest on a weekly basis or even a nightly basis, it's up to you and how much time you dedicate to it, but we don't want to do it where it's a big burden, but we do want to have positive tension. That positive tension makes sure they'll get into it and they're not just memorizing something to say it and then they'll forget about it. So on a weekly basis, quiz them, ask them questions about it, show them that you're interested in it and what did they think about a situation. SubhanAllah, listen for their feedback, because again, we're building that affinity and love toward Islam. So when we come back, we're going to talk about the next section on the curriculum. So stay tuned as we get into the academic section. We'll be right back.
Oh, how I love you, Mom and Dad.
Allah is my heart's speech. Your mercy is what I beseech. Keep in my heart your remembrance, and in your deen allow me to advance.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. I praise Allah the Almighty alone, and I send the best peace and blessings upon His most beloved Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. Brothers and sisters, welcome to a live edition of your program, Ask Huda. I cannot pinpoint or determine the fate of any individual by name and say this person is in heaven or this person is in hell. This is not up to me. But we have the general guidelines and the ruling with regards to those who die in a state of Islam and those who die in a state of any religion other than Islam. Fatima asked, do ladies have to call the iqamah before every compulsory prayer? No, they don't have to call neither the adhan nor the iqamah. There are two different opinions, brother Abdul Latif, due to the understanding of the ayah, which says when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam to do the following. He said, يا أيها النبي قل لأزواجك وبناتك ونساء المؤمنين يدنين عليهن من جلابيبهن ذلك أدنى أن يعرفن فلا يؤذين. And the names of Allah, brother Abu Bakr, should be tawqifiyah. The term tawqifiyah means we do not suggest to Allah a name. We do not ascribe to Him a name. based on our assumption.
Oh, how I love you, Mom and Dad.
Bismillah, assalamu alaikum, welcome back. All right, well, alhamdulillah, continuing our discussion about the curriculum. Let's talk about the academic side. Now, it doesn't matter if you send your child to a school, no matter public school or Muslim school or whatever that may be, they have some type of an agenda for their curriculum. So whether it's mathematics and reading or whatever it may be, they already have a curriculum. Well, a couple of things need to go on in addition to that. We need to make sure their curriculum is not going against what we're teaching in our belief systems. Because, of course, you already understand that the West has an agenda against Islam to begin with. When it comes to this whole war on terrorism thing and all this moderate type concern, all this type of stuff, alhamdulillah, that's what they do. They've been doing that since the days of the Prophet, alayhi salatu wasalam. They say, oh, he was a magician, or he's doing this or doing that. You know what? Islam is Islam. But we must be vigilant as parents to make sure we keep our eyes open to what's being taught to our children. All right? We fair on that? We okay? Great. Well, here's the deal. I like to do what I call an extended social studies program. An extended social studies program. Now, this is what a confidant in you really jumps out, okay? Because you have to be able to expose and help your children read between the lines here. So this is what I mean. Instead of just having my children learn social studies and learn the history of Turkey from somewhere else or the history of Philistine or Palestine from someone else, I want to make sure they're getting the proper perspective. And the best way I can do that is give them historical fact by giving them the Islamic perspective and giving them what we think is going on and give them some facts and let them make decisions for themselves. I'm not talking about giving them a biased version one way or the other, but I want them to see for themselves. So the story that they don't get in the school books, I want to open their eyes to. So, for example, my oldest daughters, my preteen and my teen daughters, we talk about media manipulation. We talk about what corporations tie back to what individuals own what media outlets. So whether that be huge outlets like CNN or BBC, MSNBC, whatever initials they are, who owns these individuals? Who owns the stock shares in these companies? Do they have an agenda for what they let on TV or the types of advertising that they have? All right, we need to know behind it. It's not fair and balanced news. Just because we say it's fair and balanced doesn't mean it's fair and balanced. All right, so we can talk about media manipulation, for example, depiction of races. See, when I was growing up, I saw many cartoons. Bugs Bunny, for example, Warner Brothers. Bugs Bunny, sometimes he would have little chink eyes. They would give him chink eyes. He would run around with a tail. So they were trying to call Japanese monkeys. Well, a lot of these cartoons came out right after World War II, trying to condition people against the Japanese. Blatantly racist. A lot of cartoons talk crazy about black people. And African Americans, folks, it doesn't matter. They go big lips, eating watermelon, can't hardly talk. They have buckwheat, a lot of different stuff. So we show them these different types of cartoons and media manipulation to make people feel a certain way. When I was growing up again, I remember hating the USSR, or what's now known as Russia. Had no idea why. All I know is we're the U.S., strongest, supposed to be the best, and the arch enemy is Russia. But then I look back at it, and I see stuff like True Lies, the movie True Lies, talking crazy about Muslims. I see Rambo with Sylvester Stallone talking crazy about Muslims. He's going to Afghanistan, killing us all up. Then you see stuff with Steven Seagal. You see all of this conditioning now against Muslims. This is before I was even Muslim. Like, what's wrong with these crazy people? It's the conditioning. With the Russians, for example, there was Rocky IV when he was fighting Drago. But it riled up all these emotions, all this patriotism, all this little nationalism. And we know asabiya, this racism, tribalism, it's not from Islam. It's ill. Though a lot of Muslims are suffering from that disease. So we want to expose media manipulation to our children. We figure out what programs, what books or different things they can read and go through so that they can become exposed at an early age. So as they get older, they can critically think about what's going on and be able to read between the lines, inshallah. The next thing we talk about is the pharmaceutical industry. We talk about what happened with their profits 50 years ago, 10 years ago, to see the explosion, to see the amount of new diseases that are out there now, to see how the FDA is really run by just a few individuals, and what testing is, and how many different people are being harassed and try to be closed down because they say they have cancer cures that are proven to work for some people. So we talk about that because we talk about vaccines and how, at least when I was younger, I think there were about 8 vaccines that they wanted to require. Now there's more than triple that. Who's profiting from this? Where's the science behind it? Is it really linked to autism and other diseases? Allahu alam. But we like to get the other side of the story as well. I mean, anytime Bill Gates gets involved with creating vaccinations and he talks about population control, and it should be concerning, especially from somebody who's not a scientist. I'm just saying. So we like to keep that open for our children, again, to critically think. So we talk about mind control drugs. We talk about LSD experimentation, where they would drug their own soldiers with LSD and saying that these things will unlock the secrets to the mind. We talk about the Tuskegee experiment that was carried out for a period of decades against people, giving them syphilis and treating them with different drugs to see the outcome. SubhanAllah, that's crazy. We talk about the recall of drugs that are pushed on people when it comes to birth control, for example, and how they're known to cause blood clots and heart issues and so on and so forth. And they make billions in profits and they face millions in fines. So we have to think about that because our health is important. Again, health and spare time, the two things that we don't take advantage of. Now, we talk about history, your country's history. What is the history of your country? Where did the borders come from? What happened? We talk about the United States in particular because it's very interesting. On the 4th of July, they celebrate a holiday or Independence Day. And we talk about, it's pretty hard to become independent from somewhere. You say you're independent from Europe or Britain, if you will. But there were people already inhabiting the land. There were Muslims already here, for example. There were Native Americans already in the U.S. So how do you go and declare independence and take over another people's land? It's challenging, let alone the founding fathers of the country weren't talking about everyone. They were talking about a very small minority of white property owners. So other white people that own property couldn't do anything. Women were basically considered property anyway, so they couldn't do anything. And of course, black people, the slaves that they brought up weren't even considered human beings. They were considered 3/5 of a human. It's very important to understand that type of history because you will see a huge contrast during the 4th of July with everybody flying certain flags and being very patriotic. But sometimes we like to be in a culture of escapism because you don't have to deal with reality. You can just go and barbecue and think about this and have this holiday or a day off. At least that's what they promote in the West. That's what they promote in the United States. Where we want to be real with the situation, let them know what really happened. Just a thought. Now we talk about diseases, cancer, polio, which likely led to AIDS. We talk about these different things and we have them study these different things just to expand their minds. Makes sense, right? We, again, want them to be able to critically think and think for themselves and get the other side of the story instead of just going with the grain, going with what people say. Now, there's a term called sheeple, where people who don't think and just tend to follow blindly anything that they're told by the mass media are called sheeple. Just people headed off to the slaughter. Think about it. I mean, when you think about different countries or different wars, different dictators that come to power, what if there were signs that happened beforehand, but the masses just didn't listen? Can that be possible? No question it's possible, and it has happened. So that's really the second area, academic development. The third is a very simple one, is physical development, our health, and taking care of our vitality. This is very important. Now, just to share with you something about, you want to put your right next to academic development. I failed to mention, do the same thing you did with Islamic curriculum. You want to put the stated objective or the desired outcome right next to that for each child. Now, physical development, pretty simple. Again, the Prophet ﷺ said 2 bounties of Allah that we don't take advantage of is health and spare time. Health and spare time. So what I would do is have my children get up. Now, usually, right now, Salatul Fajr comes in pretty early in the morning, but they'll get up for Salatul Fajr, and then it'd be about 5, 6 o'clock a.m. to get their workout in. And they can choose between different workouts. So when children get up, they could either do yoga, they could do fast aerobic workout. We don't do any really real weight training or anything like that, but there are different workouts to keep their body moving, give them energy, and take advantage of the morning. I think that's one of the best times to work out, to be able to appreciate the morning, to get up and get things done, to sweat, have your mind clear, and move forward with the rest of the day. Well, alhamdulillah. So a few times a week. Now, whether it be for you or your children, breathe properly. When you inhale, push your abdomen out. When you exhale, breathe out your mouth slowly. get more oxygen to your brain. This changes your physiology right away. Helps your children feel better right away. That's when they say, count to 10, take some deep breaths. That is important. That's wisdom in that information. So the physical curriculum, breathing, walking, yoga. If you want to check on YouTube for some different videos, early morning, again, gives you that vitality. So use it. Use it with the children. Very important. Now, there are many other areas you could add. You could also and should add the emotional curriculum. How are your needs being met? How are you loving each other, connecting with each other, communicating with each other? And put some different tools down. And of course, there's a lot to cover and not enough time to really cover it. So what I'm going to suggest you do is go to outstandingmuslimparents.com/balance. BALANCE. Outstandingmuslimparents.com/balance in order to get the worksheet that we provided for you, show you our sample curriculum. You can change it, customize it, make it yours, inshallah. And go ahead and design a curriculum for your children that is effective for them. You could always plan, do, and review. You could change stuff up. If you think something can be work a little better, or you could tweak it, get that out the way and do it. You will see a huge increase in the progress that you want to see in your children. You will definitely see some changes. Make sure you stay on it and stay disciplined in order to be outstanding. So remember that a wish changes nothing, but a decision changes everything. So this is Nazir bin Nasib signing off. We look forward to coaching you more and continually working with you to help you become outstanding. Ma'as-salam. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
While my world was crumbling down, and you tried your best to shelter me from the coming of the storm, you opened my eyes to see that all hope was not gone. You held me in your arms and wiped away my tears. Not even in a million years can I ever repay you for what you've done for me. You were there when I felt that there was no place for me. You were there to show me how to truly believe in the miracle of creation.